come online or to do video is on my way to work, which I've instead often choose to call my mom during my commute. And sorry, Mom, but today I just need to get something off my chest as it regards critical race theory, social emotional learning. What's the other big one? Let's see, CRT, SEL. Oh, culturally responsive and sustaining pedagogies. Now, if those words are familiar to you and you are not either in education or in academia, that's because they become a big media event that is politically motivated over the last couple of years. And my question this morning really is not to those who are against CRT, who show up at school board meetings and have been self-educating themselves on the topic. I use self-educating in quotes because really the only reason, let me give an example. Well, the only reason they're doing any research at all, research meaning maybe reading an academic article, but mostly they read things that are media produced for propaganda production. I know that those listening to this who, are from that ideological perspective would vehemently disagree with me that they're really just consuming the consumables of political propaganda, but that's for another time. I like to give this example. I grew up in evangelical Christianity, which is, as many of you know, largely conservative. Not always, but largely conservative. And one of the things, so I know what it's like, and I'm sorry about my video, but it's about the content, all right? There are progressive elements, or there are progressive movements within evangelical Christianity. That's increasingly so over the years. But my point is this: when I was growing up with this ideological framework, and when I wanted to engage the world, the public sphere, I did so now, I would say, in retrospect, looking back at the things that I was engaging with, the materials that I was reading, for example, it was disingenuous. I was sincere about defending my position. I was not sincere about examining the information. I can admit that now, but if you were to ask me back then, I said, no, I'm reading all of the positions that I'm against. And it just simply wasn't true. I would either do what I call propaganda consumables. I would read books that were written by people who already shared my position, critiquing other positions and worldviews and that sort of thing, which is what many of these people do. Now, instead of reading nowadays, most people are doing what you're doing right now. Most people today are getting their information from social media or other media networks, which I don't have a problem with as far as I don't have a problem with necessarily, but what you're getting often is secondhand information. And again, the term I believe coining today is propaganda consumables. And so people are not really interested in learning about critical race theory. They're not really interested in learning about social emotional learning and all of these other hot topics in education. They are reacting and consuming. They just want the talking points to defend their positions, to preserve their ideological perspectives. All the while making accusations against their opposition of doing the very same thing that they're doing. Meaning they want to control the narrative. They want to control the systems that deliver education to our students, our children. This used to be something, into the K-12 realm, but they've even moved now towards into the universities. ironically, they do this in the name of academic freedom, objectivity, and things like that. But we know that's kind of a farce. So, for those who are from that persuasion, we can debate that sometime. I plan to bring on my podcast very soon. Those who go around the country, preparing parents to go to school board meetings, to defend traditional values and things like that, and be against things like CRT, SEL, and culturally responsive teaching in schools, which is their complete right to do. I'm just saying up front, it's disingenuous from the start, just like I was being disingenuous back in my evangelical Christian days, defending the faith against other views when I wasn't really interested in learning what those other perspectives were as the people who believe them understand them to be. As a teacher of over 20 years and as an academic researcher in education, I often have to talk to people about and defend positions that are like ghosts. It's very hard to defend ghosts, and by ghosts I mean issues that are not issues, right? Become issues because somebody is making it an issue. Now, in the case of CRT, if you or SEL, social emotional learning, all these things that people are popping off about, if you are one of those who are becoming active in it or share the idea, that education is being perverted by, Marxists and anti-American, like promoting, racism, so to speak, because of critiquing our systems and having some aspects of those fields of research appear in classrooms. If you're one of those people, I would just simply say that be genuine about it. Maybe take a break and really look into and stop with the confirmation bias, and move into a more legitimate discourse. A legitimate discourse is really listening, active listening. And I'm not saying that your opponents are not willing to do the same, because I come from academia, and for those domains that you're against, I happen to know that closed-mindedness does not belong to the non-academics. So I'm not saying everyone has to be an academic, nor am I saying the academics are always right. In fact, the purpose of me jumping on here today is to actually address those of you who are in academia, those of you who are scholars in education. And my question to you is this: why is it that the traditional professoriate, being a faculty member at a college or university, is usually broken into a triad of research, teaching, and then the third one is service. So being of use, in the community. And there's a variety of ways that third prong of the triad of the professoriate can be realized. One important domain that I find to be extremely frustrating right now is that if you do a Google search on these hot button, issues, what comes up? Do it right now. What comes up on YouTube when you type in like CRT or social emotional learning? You will be inundated with pages and pages and pages of parent quote-unquote activists disseminating these propaganda consumables. And not once in that list do you really find, you might find one like news article covering it in a very glossed over way, but you don't find good information by academics, not addressing an academic audience, but addressing parents and helping them to wade through the the politicization of our educational process. Now, I know by even just saying that, I've kind of contradicted myself as far as the field I come from, that of course education is never politically neutral. When I say politicization, I just mean the manufactured events of the anti-CRT, SEL, and all those kind of things. So I'm just so you know, I'm on the page of understanding that there is no neutrality. Nothing's politically neutral. Power is everywhere, as Foucault would say. So don't get me wrong. I am gravely disappointed at the absence of good information from those who publish papers, those who spend their time as basically academic entrepreneurs, right? Because academics are entrepreneurs, self-entrepreneurs. They collaborate, pat each other on the back. You know the game if you're an academic. My question is, where are these academics? Where are the professors in these school board meetings? Not to go in and to be condescending and pontificate to parents, but to take a genuine interest in addressing the distorted communication and try to reach parents as a part of the professoriate triad of service. I don't see it. And I pay attention to a lot of like local school board meetings and everything, and across the country. Either I'm not looking at things correctly, but I'm looking at things the way a parent would. I just had a new baby. I'm looking at things as a citizen in a local community would, and often our universities are quite divorced from the local community, other than wanting to put their influence into schooling itself, and trying, to press the narrative that way. But clearly, my professor friends, that approach is not working against movement conservatism. We are losing the battle on pretty much all fronts, except we can go back to our ivory towers and we can know that we're right. And I'm emotionally invested in this because I left my PhD program recently because of a family emergency, relocated to another part of the country, and I had to go back to work. And I went back to work in high school in special education and in English, which I love. I love being back in the classroom. I was not a traditional academic. I was 48 years old when I began my PhD at the University of Missouri. A wonderful school, awesome program, some of the best people I've ever met in my life. But still, the thorn in my side and the splinter in my brain continues to be the inefficacy of academic research and connection to community. There's a lot of wonderful things happening when it comes to cultural responsive teaching, indigenous methodologies being implemented in extremely, in situations where traditionally, indigenous populations, urban populations, among those who are traditionally, as Freire would say, among the oppressed. Wonderful work. I love reading it. I love all of it. But being back in the classroom has really awakened me to the fact that I don't want to be lost in the milieu of, excuse me, 'cause I'm going to be responsible here. The very fact that I'm making this video on my commute to go teach says something about those of us who are teachers on the ground in K-12 institutions. I'm not saying that professors do not have similar and maybe in some extents greater pressures put upon them um, that are at the hands of politics and being tethered to the market. I mean, if I'm talking to academics today, I'm not saying anything that I'm not aware of and that you're not aware of. But the question I'm asking academics across the country, those in departments of education, is where are you? Where are you when it matters most? Where are you? Where are you in the school board meetings? And again, not to pontificate or shoot down parents who are genuinely concerned for their children. Where are you? And I'm sure that there are many out there who would respond, look, this is what I'm doing. Well, great. But where is the presence that even comes close to what is going on in the public sphere right now? What is it that we can do? I'm all ears, because I'm coming at this, from as a researcher and as a teacher and as a parent and someone who wants to help people, all people, whether they share my ideological perspectives or not. I, at the very least, think that it should be an easy task to create network of the same kind of things that movement conservatives engage in. They're very good at it. And how can we have the same resources, if not greater? Our arguments are better at the end of the day. I won't say that, though, across the board for academics, because for those who have given up and basically realize they're just going to continue their career as an entrepreneur, an academic entrepreneur, within the institution, and not be willing to risk, their status or whatever, to be engaged in the community on real level discussion. There are those, but again, I know many wonderful people, but it frustrates me. I have a disdain towards academia for thinking that it's just about the research. Of course, the research should drive policy, pedagogy, all of these things. But as everyone knows, academia is often divorced from the real world. And my question this morning, really, as I approach work, my question this morning really has to do with where are those who are the most knowledgeable outside of conferences, outside of the other duties, because we need you. We need you. And I don't see anything good on the horizon. And I understand that's par for the course for academics. But I don't see anything positive on the horizon without your help. So, what are you going to do? If you are an academic in any of the fields that I've mentioned, subfields or related, and you have an issue with what I said, I'm all ears. It's just my perspective as someone who's frustrated with the media inundation but that have material consequences, as we know, just as racism, sexism, all of the aspects of intersectionality have material consequences. So does the lack of service from academics. So if I'm like being preachy, it's because I'm being preachy. And I want to know where you're at. And if there are resources that I'm unaware of, and I'm sure there are, I don't have a lot of time these days to like engage that much myself, other than doing the work on the ground. If there are networks, if there are real things to help people in these school board meetings, in these political campaigns of school board members, and you know how ignorant many of these people are. I mean, I'm just have to say it that way. They're just completely ignorant. I listened to a school board forum because they don't want to have a debate. A forum the other day, and it's just incredible. And you know how incredible it is. The profound ignorance of people who want to have a say in educational decisions. And I'm not talking about parents here. I'm talking about activists who run for school board. Yeah. So let me know what you think. I want to know what resources are out there because I want to help promote it, in every circle that I belong to. Because if we can't have an honest discussions going on that are informed discussions, I should say. If we can't have informed discussions in the public sphere, maybe we deserve to lose our funding at higher institutions. And we owe the people the resources that we have from land grant universities that have given many of us shelter to be able to pursue intellectually and academic freedom. Share the resources then, and I will be one of the biggest proponents of all of it, but I don't see it. Again, do a YouTube search on critical race theory, on social emotional learning, and cultural responsive and sustainable pedagogies. Where are we in that list? And despite the reasons for that, what are the strategies that we can change that without putting our hand on the scale? And by that I just mean, what strategies are these people using that are effective, obviously? What are strategies that we can utilize, being, of course, as we consider ourselves to be the smartest? And I understand that that's not how power works. I understand that it is often the issues of power do not lend themselves to intellectual curiosity or honesty or integrity. I get that. But I still think, Foucault was pretty influential in my most, in some of my most recent work, because I never really I was more of a old school Freire critical pedagogy kind of guy. But Foucault helped me, and others, of course, Saint Pierre and other feminist scholars have really, cracked my hard head when it comes to, the old paradigm of superstructure and that kind of thing. Though, you guys know what I'm talking about. And I've kind of extended beyond what I meant to talk about this morning, but what are those ways? And I'm not talking about, I believe in the small victories, but I'm talking about right now, very specifically, the domain of the public sphere and the dissemination of ideas in the public sphere at a very crucial moment in our history. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but it's not just old white men who are embracing these ideals of anti-CRT, these issues that are being pushed right now. It's not. It's becoming much more diversified. And if you don't see that, I think, I don't know. There's a lot of things that we prefer not to see. Or we just don't see them because we're so divorced from reality in some senses, So let's figure something out then. If you've listened all the way this far in this video, it means you're somebody who knows what I'm talking about and have been involved and perhaps maybe have the same feelings that I've had about this. Because I do care about the outcomes, about equity, and I do care about issues of power in schooling and dismantling some of the old paradigms. I do believe that we should be able to teach critical patriotism, critical history, and critical literacy. And those have become such maligned terms in our society. Now they're starting to borrow the vocabulary, and distorted communication is their forte. I'm not suggesting that we engage in distorted communication, but I am saying be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. We've got to, because they're accusing academics, educators of all this anyways. And the truth is, most educators that I know are just too damn busy to be able to engage as much as they would like to. Or we have families. We have to keep the stability in our homes. All the pressures I understand them all. I'm a family person. And my academic career has suffered as a result of a lot of these forces and that sort of thing. But I do believe that we can do it. I do believe that this can be addressed. I don't think I'm the one to do it, because I don't think there's any one person could do it. One thing I could say about these parents, as misinformed as they might be, is they're out there. They are taking their time to show up to meetings, and they are very engaged. I just want to know where in the service domain of the professoriate triad is engaging in the public sphere, not as the hired expert, but as engaged in the community to share knowledge with the opposition, engaging in debates. These are wonderful opportunities. School board meetings and things like that are wonderful opportunities. Not to tout and throw academic pedigree around, but to engage. And most likely the best approach would be the Socratic, not overwhelming people with how wrong they are, but asking questions. I have some really good ones that I've been thinking about because I'm preparing to start going to local school board meetings and engaging. Some of them are just well, where did you get your information, right? Because they'll quote Gloria Ladson-Billings and others. I don't even want to get into that, but but they will quote some of the scholarship. But if I'm at a school board meeting and I hear them going through the talking points, it might be poignant to ask a question. So, do you know who Christopher Rufo is, for example? And why is he important to this discussion? I'm willing to guess that 90%, if not more, of the parents that show up, and if you don't know who Christopher Rufo is as an academic, I don't even know what to say. But he's the one that cooked up and manufactured, largely responsible for the movement conservatives' engagement right now. They've always been engaged, but I mean really honed in engagement on CRT, SEL, culturally responsive and sustainable pedagogies. So, but a simple question asking them, putting it to them, do you know who that is? Are you aware that he intentionally conflates these different academic fields with the stated intent, he's admitted to this, of distorted communication, of conflating those things and lumping them all together for what purpose? Political purpose and power. And give these people some sense of that they're being manipulated. They think they're speaking truth to power, when the truth is the power is using them to further those purposes. I'm not saying that they're completely ignorant and not responsible for their own racist and far right ideological proclivities. Everyone's responsible, but we're responsible. And that's all I have to say on that. So I'm really interested in your feedback on this. I do not think I am by any means the smartest or most qualified in this domain, but I have taught for over 20 years in 5 different U.S. states, including California, Colorado, Missouri, Texas, Hawaii. I've spent a lot of time in these things before I became involved in academia, and so I've seen it from both sides, which I think is an important perspective. I didn't go straight from, into grad school and doctoral studies. And I want to see this conversation in social media and places where people can access correct information in a forum that is not completely dominated by propaganda consumables. Thanks for listening. My name is Avi Penhollow. I used to have some stuff online. I haven't had time to do it anymore, but I'm going to be getting more involved as time goes on. But I'm interested to see if anybody out there, is there anybody out there? Because it doesn't feel like it sometimes. Have a great day.